Hi, I'm Ed Marsh. Welcome to this episode of Signals from the OP. I love entrepreneurs. I love manufacturing and capital equipment. So it stands to reason that I love the privately held companies that are the backbone of American advanced manufacturing and that are often closely held by family. Many of these companies were founded 30 to 40 years ago as automation started to come of age in U.S. manufacturing. There's a lot of them in the middle market industrial manufacturing space. Many build machines or make durable goods, while others are sales and distribution operations. And while some are a bit older, and others, like system integrators, newer, they're almost all the creations of people who actually did stuff, saw a problem, and bent steel to fix it. They had a solution, they were honorable and hardworking, and built inspiring businesses. Their irreverence, cockiness, energy, and can-do spirit are contagious. The flip side of those attributes is that they often dismiss important alternative perspectives. The world is different now than when they founded and grew their firm. Often the second generation, or even G3, is focused on preserving the business. Nobody wants to be known as the one that damaged the family legacy. So risk aversion is very high among a group that tends to be pretty conservative anyway. This is also a group whose first instinct is DIY, do-it-yourself. After all, that's the origin of the company. They envisioned and built something no one else could. But I've seen that extended in some ways that are honestly pretty silly and way outside the domain of their expertise. For instance, creating their own website CMS and hosting it locally, and building their own CRM from Excel sheets and macros. It's also a group that holds tight to control. They're quite certain that nobody else understands their company, their buyers, their industry, etc. as well as they do. Some of that reflects experience with quote-unquote experts who indeed didn't. Some is the control impulse of founders who went out on their own and then succeeded because they were determined nobody else would tell them what to do. The DIY and control instincts cost them growth because they steadfastly refused to embrace the proven top-line revenue growth methods that have been developed and refined for other markets like SaaS software. Sometimes they'll cherry-pick one tactic, adapt it to what they want, and then proclaim the lack of applicability because it didn't work. Well, of course it didn't. It's kind of like drinking whey protein daily while sitting on the couch and deciding that supplements don't work because you didn't bulk up. These attributes also mean that they are naturally resistant to oversight. They've made a lot of bold and correct decisions along the way, often when told by others that they were wrong and crazy and going to fail. They feel comfortable operating autonomously. In engineer-founded companies, manufacturing best practices are often adopted, but marketing and sales best practices are not, especially when family, friends, and longtime employees are in roles of leadership in those functions. So all of this is background to frame and understand why a private industrial manufacturer might resist having a robust, strategically strong board with independent directors. Many founder CEOs don't like the idea of sharing or ceding control. A board with the right skills can complement the passion and domain expertise of a talented founder with perspectives that will help unlock opportunities for the company. In a perfect world, the company would have a well-developed strategy. Working from that strategy, a nomination and governance committee of independent directors would create a board skills gap analysis using a board of directors skills matrix that identifies the strategic skills the board should have versus what it actually does. That gap analysis informs board member recruiting as part of a strategic plan to strengthen the board. But of course, it's often not a perfect world. Frequently, the strategy is a bit casual. Something along the lines of, let's keep doing what we've done. Often the board may not have any independent directors, and it may not have a formal nomination and governance function. That means that building a robust board is an iterative process. For instance, it could start by adding a couple of independent directors when prompted by, a lender, a consultant, major non-executive shareholders, etc. Those directors could begin to gradually introduce some governance best practices, including collaboration with executives in creating strategy, and steps to improve board performance. That in turn might lead to discussions around the ideal board size, how many independent directors, and what they should each ideally contribute. At that point, a board skills matrix becomes a natural next step. But what sort of skills should be on the matrix? Obviously, that depends on the products you sell and the market that you're in. So let's use an example that's common across many of my clients, food manufacturing. If you're a middle market company that sells capital equipment to food manufacturers, and has a long-term growth orientation, what skills would be important for your board to have? I'd suggest the list should include the following in no particular order. First, export sales, and that means international tax and regulatory and FCPA transfer pricing, international channel, etc. Second, food safety and production regulations. Third, nutrition. Fourth, institutional food operations for restaurants, cafeterias, the distribution channels, etc. Fifth, retail food operations like grocery and consumer. Sixth, M&A. Every company should always be open to strategic opportunities for acquisition and sale, but with realistic expectations that come from having done it. Seventh, business models. Subscription services, recurring revenue. Eighth, technology. 3D printing is coming to food. IIoT is already there. Ninth, sales best practices, including process, recruiting, methodology, and training. 10th, digital marketing. 11th, of course, tax, accounting, and finance. 12th, ingredients and trends, for instance, clean label, sustainability, alternative proteins. 13, talent management, finding and retaining the top talent that you need. 14th, partnerships, sales channel if applicable, certainly other businesses in the ecosystem. 15th, machinery manufacturing. 16th, of course, food manufacturing. And 17th, generational and geographic perspectives to help understand and anticipate trends and provide perspective during cycles. So where would you go to find these? Well, let's take a subset. Business models, sales growth, digital marketing, partnerships, and generational perspectives, for instance. A machinery company could add a technology executive like a SaaS CRO who might provide all of these. Or another example, tax and finance and M&A could also be combined, as maybe could ingredients, nutrition, and food safety. Imagine the richness of discussion and quality of decisions that would come from a board with that breadth of experience. Sure, the company still bends and welds steel, but they're functioning as an integral member of their target market ecosystem. And it works because the board helps create strategy iteratively, incorporating that experience as they go. Then, independent directors turn to the gap analysis revealed by the Board of Directors Skills Matrix to recruit new members, and that creates a virtuous cycle of improved board governance and improved company performance. And of course, boards often turn to consultants and experts to fill gaps in expertise that aren't filled by directors. Now, there are downsides. The CEO must report to the board. It can't be a rubber stamp, and in some cases, the board will have to replace the CEO. That prospect can dissuade companies from taking the step. There's also a cost. While private company independent director compensation is minimal, the aggregate cost for several directors, plus travel and meetings, is a material number. If a company is operated as a lifestyle business, a strong board is probably not appropriate. But if there's genuine intent and family buy-in to the idea of profitable long-term growth, then a board with independent directors built around a skills matrix can be an enormous asset. I'll drop some links below in the video notes to some board skills matrix resources from the NACD, the National Association of Corporate Directors, of which I'm a certified director. I'm Ed Marsh. If you found value in this episode of Signals from the OP, check out the full playlist and maybe even like it, share it, and subscribe, either to my YouTube channel, edmarshspeaks.tv, or at the related blog, signalsfromtheop.com.